This is the way I look at it. The stock's up over 35% for the year, but look at the financials. The revenues are up 1%. The earnings are down 5%. And these new phones, the big innovation is we might get a purple and green color. Wow, that's exciting. And there's no 5G on the phone. You know, you're going to get a better camera, but the cameras we currently have are pretty good, and maybe you can charge some other products. So for us, it's a small position. You have to remember, we're actually very long the supply chain for Apple, where you've had Apple burn a lot of inventory over the past 6 months. So one of our largest positions is a company called Lumentum. They provide the lasers for Apple, and that stock's trading at about 12.5 times earnings, and we think that's a huge runway for them, regardless of Apple.
So what turns you more bullish on the story then?
I mean, quite honestly, you know, if you look at the big trends in tech right now, what do you have? Well, you've got 4.5 billion people on the planet out of the 7.5 billion people who already have cell phones. The improvements you're getting are very incremental. And last year you had smartphone unit sales decline for the first time since the iPhone was launched. So you're talking about a very slow growth market for a product that's over 50% of their revenues, and they're at the high end of the market. So until they get a 5G phone out, and that's going to probably come next year, it's hard for me to see somebody running out and spending $1,000 so they can buy a purple phone and with a better camera. So for me, Apple, it's had a great run, great buyback, obviously, great dividend. But, you know, the big moves we made last week, quite honestly, is we shorted the bonds. And we bought Silicon Valley Bank, which is down 39% year to date. We bought Lincoln Financial with a 6 PE that's down 23% or so year to date. And we think the financials actually, and that trades at a 6 PE. We think those are some of the more interesting spaces of the market where these stocks have gotten absolutely killed. And if we're not going into a recession, you're going to have a big bounce in the financials. And so those were the big moves we actually made last week.
What, Jason, does Apple need to do, in your estimation, to get an investor like Dan Niles more excited about the story?
Yeah, you got to fire Tim Cook. It's a disaster. I mean, I think they haven't done anything innovative since this device, which is magical. The iPods are
I thought
amazing.
You were joking.
No, I'm being dead serious. I think it's time for him to pass the baton because Steve Jobs passed away. The phone has been in decline since. No, there's no reason to upgrade your phone. So peak phone was, what, 2015? And it prints money, sure, but the major problem is they believe that any company that innovates out there is not as good as theirs. They need to watch what Zuckerberg did with Instagram and WhatsApp and what Google did with Android and with Instagram. Dan's going to buy back into the stock if they buy Tesla, if they buy Peloton, if they buy Spotify, and they start putting that $200 billion to work. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Well, I mean,
if they had that, I mean, if they put Peloton in every store, would you buy?
I'm not a I like my Stairmaster.
The broader point that Jason's making.
But the point he's making actually has a lot of validity to it, in the sense that if you think, the one thing I will say Tim Cook has done better than any CEO is deal with the current administration, and so he's put his personal feelings aside. Obviously, openly gay man, highest profile CEO on Wall Street. And he's done a great job dealing with the Trump administration. So more than any other CEO, you have to give him a lot of credit for that. Now, on the innovation front, I completely agree with them. It's something I've said before. Apple, since the passing of Steve Jobs, but to be fair, he's a once-in-a-generation, maybe somebody like an Elon Musk that you're going to see.
What's the stock
really
up? Isn't the stock up 250%?
Yeah,
or I forgot what the number is. That number may be wrong. My point is, though, the stock is up a lot under Tim Cook.
That's because they're extracting so much money from their loyal fans. The margin on this is $150.
And don't forget, they have a huge buyback. They have a massive dividend. And so that's great that the stock does really well right now. But if you're looking out for this company over the next 2, 3, 5 years, once that buyback starts to peter out and that balance sheet starts to wind down, they're not innovating that much. They're 1 year behind Samsung on 5G. When you're trying to have somebody cough up $1,000 for a new phone, I think that's a big deal. So, you know, I think the stock's going to actually do relatively well between now and when they have to report the fourth quarter. If you think of last year, right, stock did great for the first 9 months. Then they had to sell 50% more phones in the fourth quarter. And I was on your show in August saying, I think Apple's going to have a huge problem because people are worried about China, yet they're somehow not worried about Apple that's got high teens percentage of revenue.
Stock's only $20 off the high.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with what Jason's talking about in terms of innovation,
What got you here will not get you there.
Yeah,
and that's their core problem. They are resting on the laurels of Steve Jobs' legacy. They need to put Tim Cook in another position, get Elon Musk in there, let him run the company. Find somebody like that, somebody who is maniacal about product. I mean, let's just sit here and realize that iPods are the greatest headphones ever made, and that's the greatest thing they've done over there in 10 years. It's a disaster. And if they take that store footprint and they put a Model 3 in every one, if they put a Peloton tread in there, and I've been using the tread, it is exceptional. Peloton is the Tesla or the iPhone of sports equipment. It would go gangbusters. They would go from 500,000 Peloton subscribers to at least 10 million. That's the type of acquisition you need to make if you're going to compete. And they just have way too much pride. They think that they make the best products in the world and nobody else can. Incorrect. Tesla, Peloton, Facebook, Google, all making wonderful products right now. The Pixel 3 with Google Fi is a better experience than the iPhone. I have both. I use both. I've used every version of both phones. The Google Pixel is a better phone.
Talk about
do you agree with this or you disagree?
I just think there's a huge opportunity around Apple TV and combining what they've built there with a streaming service that would give them an enormous competitive advantage over the other players in the streaming space. Well, and I just is it coming in the next couple of weeks?
This is what I would say with regards to that. I think Apple TV is going to be a humongous disappointment, and this is why. Why do you get a TV service? It's for content. Now,
I thought you were asking me that as a question.
Yeah.
I was stumbling there for a while.
Why do you use the television?
Now here's the thing, right?
Niles answered his own question.
Yeah, exactly. But there's this little company called Disney that's coming out, and they plan on bundling Disney along with ESPN, along with Hulu for $12.99 a month.
Game over.
They are going to absolutely crush everybody else who's trying to launch a streaming service, including the incumbent Netflix, if you're them.